Chapter 21. Of course. Of course I know what I'm talking about, the human dragon said as he slowly took a step forward, addressing the group. Countless people have walked through this door, and I've said these words to each and every one of them. Countless. The group was stunned for a moment. Officer Lee growled. What exactly are you people? How many have you captured? Captured? The human dragon tilted his head, revealing a pair of filthy eyes through the holes of his mask. He stared coldly at Officer Lee with a sneer and said, Are you sure? Do you really think we captured you? Isn't that the case? Officer Lee gritted his teeth. Are you telling me we came here willingly? Lin Kinsidin said to Keisha and Officer Lee. You already know these people are insane. Don't bother arguing with them. Let's just leave. Her words brought the group back to reality. These people wearing animal masks were obviously abnormal. And this human dragon, with various animal skulls sewn together, was particularly deranged. If they followed the thoughts of a madman, they themselves would soon go mad. The group moved past the human dragon and headed toward the exit behind him. Remember, without 600 path, no one can leave. The human dragon quietly warned, against his better judgment. Qi Shaw turned his head and asked, How do we acquire these paths? Why are you even talking to him? Xiao Jin grumbled as he gave Keisha a shove. Are you seriously thinking about collecting those beads? No matter what, I have to get out. Qi Shaw replied, his eyes resolute. Someone is waiting for me. The human dragon gave a slight nod and said, Through the games you've experienced, different games allow you to acquire different paths. Tohei's expression turned grin as he looked down at the golden bead in his hand. You mean, we have to actively participate in the games to obtain the paths? That's right. Take them all, the human dragon said, waving his filthy hands. You must leave this place. Keisha stared at the beads in his hand, deep in thought. The others didn't know how to persuade him and could only walk out through the door one by one. A breeze blew against their faces, carrying a weighty, indescribable scent. The group slowly opened their eyes, but there was no joy of salvation. Before them lay a ruined, dead city. The sky was dark red, with a dusty-colored sun hanging above. Black lines were creeping across its surface, spreading inward. Under this eerie sky was a decaying city. It seemed like it had once been a bustling area of a small town, but now it looked as though it had been bombed and burned to ashes. The fire had raged for days without being extinguished, leaving behind this desolation. Most of the buildings were damaged, the walls cracked, and countless dark red plants crawled up their side. Officer Lee swallowed hard in death. Hey, human dragon, where the hell have you brought us? He turned around, his words catching in his throat, mouth slowly falling open. The others followed his gaze and turned around as well. There were no buildings behind them, only an empty square. At that moment, the 9 of them stood alone in the center of the square, as if they had fallen from the sky. How did we get here? Where's the door we came through? Where's the human dragon? But no one was there to answer their questions. In the center of the square, conspicuous electronic screen that seemed to have been there for years, with rust gathering at the edges. On the screen, a strange message glowed brightly. I have heard the echo of summoning disaster. Summoning disaster? What the hell is that? Yao Jin read the message twice, still not understanding. Keisha noticed that above the electronic screen stood a giant, weathered copper bell. A combination of the ancient bell and the modern electronic screen seemed completely out of place. Hanwei Imo slowly raised his head and muttered, Maybe we really are dead. Is this the underworld? Before seeing this sight, he had still held onto a shred of hope. Maybe they weren't dead. Maybe they had been captured just before death. But how could this abnormal world be explained? I don't know if we're dead or not. But if I don't treat your wounds soon, you will be. Forcing himself to stay composed as he lifted Han Yimo's arm. His words slowly brought the group back to reality from their daze. no matter what. They seemed to be alive for now, and as long as they were alive, I couldn't give up. There seems to be a convenience store over there. Lincoln pointed into the distance. It looked pretty damaged, but maybe there's some threatened bandages inside. Without a word, Tiao, Jiao, Jin propped upon Waimo's other arm and smiled bitterly. Let's check it out. If we could find some food, that would be even better. The group slowly advanced. The strange atmosphere of this place filled them with unease. The convenience store was in the middle of a road, its glass door completely shattered and its sign half collapsed. Just as they were about to reach the entrance, they stopped. Across from the convenience store was a restaurant, where a figure stood at the door. He wore a bull's head mask and a black suit, his hands behind his back, standing as still as a statue. The group couldn't help but feel nervous. These people with animal masks were all insane. Was this bull-headed man here to talk about another test? They waited cautiously for a while, but noticed that the bull-headed man didn't move. He neither spoke nor even glanced in their direction. They summoned the courage to move forward again, reaching the door of the convenience store. Is he a dummy? Tian asked cautiously. He all looked closely at the bull-headed man. His eyes under the mask were still moving slightly. He wasn't a dummy. It seemed like he was guarding the restaurant behind him. Who cares what he is? Just act like he's not there, Officer Lee said, turning to open the ruined door of the convenience store. As soon as the door opened, a nauseating stench hit them. The air of the city itself was already overwhelmingly oppressive, but the smell in the store was even worse. The stench of blood, rot, and burnt flesh mixed with a faint heat, lingering in the room. Lawyer Zhang Xihan's couldn't take it and immediately bent over, dry heaving. Tian looked at him worriedly and asked, "Are you okay, Mr. Lawyer?" "I'm fine." Zhang Xihan wiped his mouth and looked at Tian. "You don't seem affected at all." Tian's expression turned awkward as she forced a smile and said, "Maybe it's because of my job. I've smelled worse." Stop talking." Zhang Xihan nearly vomited again. Tixiao, covering his nose and mouth, stepped inside. Most of the shelves had fallen to the ground, and the floor was dark and sticky, covered in who knows what.